Hello, Bigfoot enthusiast. Scott here from Squatch America.
And Hannah, the domestic goddess who was rocking out in the paddy wagon just a minute ago.
Just to the countdown.
He told me to stop dancing because he's a party pooper.
Yeah, that's me. Party pooper.
It's true.
So, we have a great show for you tonight. We have a guest on tonight, so get your questions ready, folks.
Did you want to show them what we've been living with today?
Living with what? Oh, yeah.
So we
woke up this morning, and this is what we woke up to.
We hope y'all are enjoying your spring weather.
Yes. I have to say this is April 14th in Eastern Oregon. Yay, team. So
most people have their pansies outside by now. Not so much.
Not so much. So you're ready to get into this, huh?
I am, but you're not. You can't find the button.
I can't. Oh, because I changed the logo.
Oh.
So let's roll that beautiful bean footage. There we go.
All right.
It lagged a little bit on us. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we have a Squatcher extraordinaire and prior BLM employee.
The real BLM.
And he's part of the Bluff Creek. We give you Kipp Morrill. Hi, Kipp.
Hey, good evening. I guess it's afternoon here. How about that?
Yeah, afternoon-ish.
Yeah, it's afternoonish here, but we have a lot of people that watch us in Maine, so it's good evening there.
Right on.
So, about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, we pulled into kind of a sketchy sort of campground in Brookings. God bless their hearts. And all of a sudden, we got a message from this guy saying, "Hey, I noticed you were parked across from me. Can I come visit with you?"
Yep.
And that's how we met Kipp Morrill. So,
yeah, it was great. By the way, she says sketchy because where we were at was open to the public, that road in front of us. Yeah, we woke up and our X-Chocks were missing in the morning. So,
yeah,
no kidding.
Yeah.
Beautiful beachfront views, but not so much on the security.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Anyway.
So Kipp, I need to ask you the big question that we ask all our guests. So what got you into Bigfoot, especially coming from the BLM world?
So I grew up until about the third grade in Redding, California. And so I was automatically interested just by hearing the tales, that there was something that could potentially be, locally in that area. So my mother took me down to the Redding bookstore, and that's where I got my first books. I got, the John Green On the Track of the Sasquatch, Year of the Sasquatch, all of those. And I read those religiously as a young person. And I was just really intrigued with the idea that there could be something like that in the woods they're right outside of Redding. Willow Creek, it's just like right there. In fact, I have a picture somewhere. I know I have it on Facebook somewhere. It was my father and I standing next to that big carved Bigfoot that Jim McLaren carved when I was probably about that time. So that's what I was initially interested. And it wasn't until later on I started getting with the internet, with Facebook and all these things. I started getting an idea that maybe I could get more involved, and so started down that path. Ended up and it was, to me, there was always either I had time but I didn't have the funds, or I had the funds but I didn't have time. And those things started to really line up as I got a little older. Ended up, I was with a Bay Area group that Tom Yamarone had put together. And it was right after that I met Bart Catino and got involved with the recreation from his thermal footage up in the Sierras, and it's kind of just been a ride ever since. I've just been into it ever since. I'd like to refer to myself as a Bigfoot Sasquatch enthusiast. So probably, I think calling me a researcher is a little bit on the, I'm not sure how accurate that is, but I'm certainly an enthusiast, and I enjoy getting out in the woods. My big thing is I love to camp. I love the people that I get to hang out with. And oh, by the way, there's this really cool Bigfoot thing. So it gives me an excuse to get out in the woods.
Yeah, that's great. That's kind of what we're into it too for, is getting out in the woods. I mean, I about 5 years ago, I pretty much quit my job, was able to do that actually, and start doing this Bigfoot thing full time. And I remember the first year I quit, I spent 150 days in the woods. I'm like, I'm staying here. So yeah, it was awesome.
Nice.
We won't talk about what our backyard looked like when he wasn't there to mow it down.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like you guys. I mean, I retired in October from the Bureau of Land Management. I was the state aviation manager for the BLM, Oregon, Washington. Had 31 years in the fire service. And so I'm coming to you live from our house. We live in a fifth wheel full time now, and we're just traveling about and really, and I think we're just getting started. So really looking forward to, some outings this summer. Got a couple of Bluff Creek things planned. Got another one up in Washington, Beachfoot. I got some things that I'm pretty excited about, being a part of. So
I would really like to check out Beachfoot.
Yeah, that would be fun. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to be in Oregon this summer, because we're actually we're going to Falk, Arkansas for a while.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we're meeting up with Craig Wooheater there.
Nice.
And Lyle
Blackburn. And then we are headed to Tennessee. So we're going to do some squatching there. We're hooking up with the Turtle Man from the Call of the Wild show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. But so we're gonna go look for them southern Bigfoots this year.
Nice little some fried food, a little bit of nonsense.
And after that, if I have after that we're headed to the Carolinas, and then if I get my way, we might actually get to finally winter in Florida. I will handle a mean skunk ape if that means I can be in Florida for the winter.
Tate Hieronymus is down there in Florida, and Stacy Brown and some of those folks. So lots of incredible opportunities down there, and that's great.
It is.
There's heat.
Yeah, it'll be fun. No, we're on our third year living full time in an RV. Yep. And I wouldn't go back.
Sometimes I look at tiny cabin floor plans and think, just because it would allow us to get rid of our storage unit, but then we'd be stuck in one spot.
Yeah. So I think we're sure enjoying the moving around and seeing, and again, we stayed in Brookings here for a month. We came from Arizona where we were at for a month, and just kind of get to know an area a little bit. And then we kind of move around a little bit, and then we kind of hunker, and we're just getting started. So we're pretty excited about it. And I think the other thing that I ran into a woman today that was, she said, "Oh, where are you from?" And I told her, I said, I have a mailbox in Ridgefield, Washington, and said, we're full-time RV, we're traveling around. And she said, "Oh my gosh, I wish we could do that, but we're too old. We're too old." And so, blessed with the ability to go ahead and retire at 54 with, relatively healthy, young. And so, there's not a day that goes by that I don't wake up and think I have to pinch myself, because I'm incredibly fortunate to be able to do this. So
that is so true. I remember the first time it must have been about, I think, maybe 6 months in to our little adventure. And I woke up and realized I wasn't having a panic attack.
Yeah.
It's like,
I don't have to go to work
I
today.
don't, you know, it's
Yeah.
just like I have been living in that stress and anxiety and like, what fresh hell is going to hit me today? And to wake up and realize that, oh, this is what not being stressed out feels like. This is so awesome.
All that stress just kind of rolls off.
I know.
Yeah.
And people ask
Yeah.
me, don't you miss the like teaching? No. Don't you miss the student? No. Don't you
Yeah,
miss
yeah.
you know, hanging with your no, I don't miss any of it. Not any of it.
All right.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's funny. There was I saw a couple on Facebook somewhere that they just started their full-time adventure, and I really liked it because people would ask me, well, what are you going to do? And I don't know, probably drink more. One of my things I said, but aside from that, I really liked their answer was, you know, how long are you going to do it for? And they said, until it stops being fun. And I thought,
Yeah.
okay, hey,
Yeah.
that's easy. I like that.
That's easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We actually, we're part of Harvest Host. I don't know if you know about them.
yeah, so are we. Yeah.
Yeah. So that drinking part.
I saw that. I saw you guys where you stayed there recently on your recent journey.
An echo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
winding.
looked
That was
nice.
really quite funny because I learned a lesson there.
Yeah.
If the bottle of wine that you want to purchase is not on the list, then it means it's not on your budget.
No kidding. It's like, if you have to ask how much, then you can't afford it. It's one
Yeah.
of those things.
And
Yeah.
I just didn't even consider it. I just figured the one I wanted was everything else was like $23. Okay, I'll take that one too. $110. What? So we are saving that for, I think we're going to save that for when we actually find him.
Yeah.
When I can
That's right.
successfully hand deliver jalapeno poppers to a Sasquatch, we're going to break out that bottle.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So anyway.
So you're headed up to Washington. Are you going to do some squatching up there? And
so my wife is she does fire nature journaling. She has a website called Pyrosketchology, and she's actually assisting at helping put on a workshop for some educators to kind of teach how they can teach students and others to journal about fire. And so she's involved with that. So that's why we're going to Winthrop. We'll be up there, for roughly a week, and then we're going to drop down back into the Vancouver area for another week, take care of dentist and all that stuff. So I don't think I'm really going to get out into the woods until probably the end of May. I'm hoping to head north and maybe get up into the Olympic Peninsula for a little while and do some stuff there. And then Beachfoot in June. Right after that, the Bluff Creek Project camp out in July, Bartfoot in August. So it's going to be, plus there's a chance I might do a few fire assignments here and there just for fun. But again, we're just getting started, and we're still kind of learning and feeling our way out on how to navigate this whole new lifestyle, which we love. So
awesome. Okay, I got to ask you the tinfoil hat question. So, what does the BLM think about Bigfoot?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot.
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
Typically, what I would do is, in my fire job, I would kind of bridge, or bring up the topic, if you will. I'd talk to people and I'd say, so. In a great example, I was an incident commander on a type 3 fire that had just come down from a big fire. And I had a trainee with me, and he was a hotshot superintendent for a hotshot crew. And so we're driving along in my truck, going out and checking on the folks. And I said, so I got this hobby. Like, oh, what hobby is that? Well, I'm into Sasquatch Bigfoot. And I'll either get one of two responses. The first response is, you're crazy. Or the second response with, oh, I totally believe that. Yeah. And the individual says, oh, I totally believe that. And he went to tell me about this story about one of his crewmen who had been, he was a Native American and had mentioned, I think that he lived up near Hoopa or somewhere. how he would go fishing with his grandpa on the river, and they went to this spot to go salmon fishing, and all of a sudden these huge rocks start falling down into the water, and he says, his grandfather says, we need to go because the hairy man doesn't want us to be here, and they just left and walked out. So I guess I'm diverting it a little bit and chasing a rabbit trail there, but I'll back up. So what does the BLM think? Well, I don't know exactly from an official capacity, but I can tell you that because I've thrown it out there. I did get a call once from somebody on one of our districts that had just had somebody that had come in and had a sighting report. So I've gotten a few, pieces in, of information that way. But as an agency, I don't know. I get asked a lot whether or not, well, do you think the federal government knows more than what they know or they're saying? And my response is, I've worked for the federal government, and I don't get me wrong, there's a lot of competence, but it can't get out of its own way half the time. So I don't think it's, anything nefarious or anything that's going on that people don't know about already, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Well, I've worked for 2 state governments, so I feel you.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, no, I don't think that I don't think that they can keep it that secret for that long. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. So what I've been wondering details. What does the Bluff Creek Project do? What is their tactics? I guess I'd have to say.
Well, so initially, what's that?
Their mission. What are they about? Because I'll bet that there are more than one person who don't know about the Bluff Creek Project. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, it's basically we're testing the scientific method, which is you have to have a hypothesis, and that hypothesis is you can either have a positive or a negative. But at this point, the hypothesis is that there's a large bipedal hair-covered creature that was filmed in Bluff Creek on October the 20th, 1967. And so the project really got started when Stephen, Robert, and Ian, and then later on Rowdy tried to rediscover, the big question was, after one of the big conferences that was there in Willow Creek at one point, it was interesting because nobody knew where the site was. Everybody thought they knew where the site was. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, this is a pretty historical thing, right? And so, but it's so remote, it's so down in the canyon. There's been, flooding and, fires and whatever else that can happen. And so it's a matter of, basically trying to figure out, well, they wanted to know, well, let's go find out where it actually was and how can we do that? And so if you read Robert's book on the Bluff Creek Project, which it's about 600 pages, but it's a niche, it fills a niche, I guess. So, it's not a book that anybody's going to just want to probably pick up and start reading, although they could. But it's obviously it's for those that want to nerd out on trying to figure out and find the site. So that's where it got started. The Bluff Creek Project was, let's go find this site, and it's been found, and it's been proven. Second part of that would be putting out trail cameras, basically testing the hypothesis, putting it out there and seeing if we can find something out there on a camera. And so, with that, it's camera placement, it's camera maintenance, camera batteries, all of that. And to add to that is the fact that there's this thing called the Port Orford cedar disease. And so there's gates on a lot of these roads that when they close after the first hard rain, usually the end of October, 1st of November, and they don't open up until the first part of June sometimes. And so that keeps access in. I mean, you can get in, but it's a hell of a walk to try and get back in and to try and get in there and get to the cameras. So once the cameras are in there, you'll oftentimes see, people on the trail, but it's usually during the summer, or fish biologists wandering down through the Bluff Creek. So now it's a matter of just testing a hypothesis. But with that, the side piece of that is finding out, what else is down there? What else? What kind of other things? And are there, trails and are there other animals that are, what's down there? So we found mountain lions, bears. I'm not sure if you're aware of what the Humboldt marten was, but it was almost extinct, and they didn't know where this thing was, and we captured one on one of our cameras.
Cool.
The ringtail cat, it hadn't been sighted in that area in 50 years, but it was part of its territory. Captured one of those on camera. So no large hairy bipedal creatures yet, but my saying is, especially like putting out cameras or going in the woods, you have 100% better chance of having a sighting if you're in the woods. You have 100% better chance of capturing something on a trail camera if you have a trail camera out. So, will we get lucky? And who knows? We've had some, interesting things happen, on different camping trips and whatnot. But, we always kind of like to deal with Occam's razor. What is the most likely example, or what is the most likely explanation for something? It's not, it was Bigfoot. Oh, it was a Sasquatch. And I really appreciate that about this group is they're very skeptical, which is good. What's it? Somebody said, put on your skepticals. Yeah.
Your skepticals. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah. We are actually trying a new thing this year too, because there've been a lot of talk amongst researchers and stuff about the Bigfoot's ability to see the IR from the cameras and stuff like that, and that's why they avoid them recently. So we're trying something new this year. We're putting our cameras out and we're going to tape over the IR lights. So we're just going to have to rely on the moonlight or whatever, at night. And then we're also putting them inside a Faraday cage, so there's no signals coming out of them. We're going to give that a shot. They make a Faraday cloth that we're going to wrap around them. So interesting.
Another thing that I found was interesting is, and I know that you have a lot of cameras, the having the windshield cameras and having that going all the time. Man, if you talk to like Kirk Brandenburg, or especially if you talk to Chris Spencer, he'll tell you, always put out a recorder, always have a recorder. Don't ever not have a recorder. And I know of an experience that a group here recently, and they didn't have the recorder. And they had all this interesting stuff happen. So, that's typically how it'll work. And then I know that there's been a lot of talk about people putting a camera on the back as you're walking and capturing, what's going on behind you.
Yeah, we do that. We have I have a GoPro that I have on the back of my backpack that films me walking away. So
that's a good idea. But all this stuff costs money,
Yep, it does.
That's right. Speaking of which, speaking of money, we have to sell y'all something. So give us a break. We'll be right back.
All right, so I got to find it. Where'd it go?
That was
Friends, the world is experiencing a new wave of food shortages. Even the president warned us to prepare. Let him help you. I'll wait. There's no better way to use your tax rebate than to get the long-term emergency food storage you've been wanting. Click on our affiliate link below and stock up while you can. We recommend My Patriot Supply, the nation's largest preparedness company. You won't go hungry when you have this food on hand. Remember, the unthinkable could happen any day now, and you will need emergency food to get you through it. No question about it. Your shipment will arrive quickly in unmarked boxes for your privacy. Click on our affiliate link below.
All right, we're back. We have
That was a
we
good
have to pay
tie-in,
for
wasn't
this.
it?
What?
I said that was a
What?
good tie-in, man. Huh?
That was.
By the way, I just want to let everyone know it's very true. The unthinkable could happen at any moment. And this afternoon, I went to refill my cup of coffee, and there was only enough for half a cup left. And if it was not for my Patriot Supply and the coffee that came with the stuff, I would have been stuck with a half a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
So it's true.
Yeah, there you go.
Now it's not the best coffee, but it's coffee. And
Yeah.
that, at that point, at 3:30 this afternoon, that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
So, all right, you guys, carry on.
Okay, carry on now. So I think we were talking about cameras, if I remember right.
Yeah, a little bit there. Yeah, so just tying it back to the Bluff Creek project. Yeah, it's testing the scientific method and a hypothesis, and just I think that there was a leadership class that I was in, and one of the talks was about consistency. And if you're consistent with something, and Hannah, you with your your weight loss and that type of thing, if you're consistent, you're going to have results. And I think that research is like that as well. You have to be
Time
diligent.
plus consistency equals results.
Mhm.
There you go. So in the meantime, it's a I think it's a labor of love. But the fact again is that there's putting out cameras and there's doing all these things, but and then by the way, there's this really cool thing about hanging out and sitting around a campfire with people that you enjoy the company with, getting out and hiking in the woods. To me, again, this whole Bigfoot thing it's a bonus. It's like, that would be great. And I often tell people, I think I want to have a sighting. I think I want to have some sort of experience, but then you talk to people and it's a life-changing experience. And some people have a hard time recovering from it, and coming back. So I always tell people, I think that I want to, but in the interim, I think it's just it's the mystery. It's the fun part. It's just having, working with a really great group of people, having fun. If it wasn't fun, why would we do it?
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I've done all sorts of crazy stuff out looking for Bigfoot. I do a lot of hammock camping when we're out. I do a lot of backpacking and a lot, sometimes solo. In fact, most of the time solo camping. And I've learned a lot, a lot of bushcraft skills and things like that. But I've hammock camped at 11 degrees outside and 2 feet of snow, just for fun. I know.
Wow, that's dedication.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I actually had a sighting myself for the first time. It was like 4 years ago, but it took me 25 years of stupid amounts of time in the woods and following reports and putting pins in maps and figuring out migration patterns and just from reports and things like that. So that's kind of our technique.
And that actually is the advantage. That's an advantage that we had before we hit the road, because we were here for 8 years, 5 of those years
in the same area.
Yeah, and 5 or 6 of those years collecting reports. So, and that's something that we don't have the advantage with anymore.
Yeah, while we're driving.
So.
Yeah, it's a little different story for us now. But when we were stationed or when we're in a house, in case you don't know where we're at, we're in Baker City, Oregon. That's in the Blue Mountains. We're literally 15 miles south of where the Freeman film was taken, basically. So
wow, close to Jonathan Summerlin and where he lives.
Yes.
Walla Walla area, over in that area.
Yep.
So Freeman, Milton Freeman,
Freewater. Milton Freewater.
Freewater.
Yeah.
I always just call it's Milton Bradley. Okay, yeah.
Yes, Milton Freewater and Walla Walla. If you're ever back in Walla Walla, there's a great Hawaiian barbecue there. Just saying.
Klamath Falls, definitely.
Okay, got you there. All right. So All right, come on, spontaneous man.
Spontaneous man.
You're getting. So Scott is scrolling the comments, looking for
Yeah,
something.
I had a question. I saw a question. It was way back here.
Oh, go to. I think you're. So Donna had a question.
Yeah.
Actually, she had a question about what do you think the lifespan? Right there.
There it is.
There it is. So
Okay.
this is a random question, but here we go.
Here we go.
What are your thoughts on the life expectancy of a Bigfoot?
Okay. That's an interesting question. I wonder if you meant lifespan, Donna. You might want to throw that. Or life expense.
That's about the same thing. A lifespan and a life expectancy.
Well, it depends on the situation. What's the life expectancy of a Bigfoot in a forest fire?
All right.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's I would answer it just thinking that they, you know, how long they expect them to live, that type of thing. And, you know, there's so much about Bigfoot Sasquatch research. You know, I often fall back to the, you know, we don't know what we don't know. You know, and I hear there's the, oh yeah, the spiritual Bigfooters, and oh yeah, the blood and you know, you know, the and it's like the bottom line is, hey, I don't know, maybe they do have some sort of special abilities, or you know, who am I to tell people that whatever their experiences have been wrong or didn't happen? You know,
Right.
those are all, you know, I'm sure with yours, Scott, you know, that was a very personal experience. And so when you tell somebody and they say, oh, well, you probably just saw a bear, or yeah, it was this, it's like, well, you weren't there. So,
yeah.
But thinking about if it's a bipedal, if it is some have sort of a gorilla or a primate type of creature, then, you know, obviously you maybe look at, you know, life expense, the lifespan or life expectancy of a gorilla or something like that. And if they're more human, you know, but you know, it's a pretty rough life where they live, right? So it's got to be a pretty interesting existence. But you know, they're big creatures that require a lot of calories. You know, I'm sure they're constantly trying to figure out ways to get more calories and not expend calories. You know, that's why, you know, there's been a lot of talk, you know, about them walking on ridge tops or following trails or on roads or whatever, you know, that as a large, let's just call them mammal, you know, they're going to look for the you know, the path of least resistance. So I don't know. I guess my thought would be somewhere between a gorilla and a human, maybe, you know,
Maybe
50,
perhaps
60 years.
50, 60
I
years.
was going to say that if you look at
Kind of our guess too.
if you looked at humans when we had more of a manual scratch out of the earth existence, maybe not one that was, you know, not like in medievalism, of course, they were pretty much being starved, but you know, if we were living like we did a few hundred years ago, before medical technology extended our lifespan.
Yeah, and if you go to any like Tombstone, Arizona, or somewhere, and you look at, you know, well, especially back east, when you look at, you know, 200-year-old grave sites or this or that, you know, you'll see like 75 and sometimes 80, but you also see a tremendous amount of, you know, died at 28 or died in childbirth at 23, or, you know, there's it seems like, you know, they're a lot more susceptible to disease and some of those other things. And so, yeah, I think that's an interesting question. I know that one of the things that really intrigued me, one of the sighting reports, was Bobby Short's first sighting that she had when she was backpacking in the Trinity Alps, and had first thing in the morning was in some ferns or somewhere trying to, you know, relieve herself, and walked this. It was a female, and it went walking just a little ways off on the trail, had a scar, was kind of gray, looked, you know, old and probably not extraordinarily healthy. And I thought that was kind of an interesting sighting report. So it kind of makes you wonder. I'm assuming they must hopefully grow old, but then you see reports about, you know, cripplefoot and this and that. And, you know, I'm sure that, you know, they probably fall and they probably, you know, twist their ankle, and they probably have, you know, all these different things. If we think that they're a lot like us and a lot like human, then so yeah, I guess it's.
I think they're probably susceptible to anything that the rest of nature is susceptible to.
Right, and no urgent care.
Yeah. No, no, I have, my theory was between 50 and 60 years old. Um, uh, I don't know if I talked to you about my background. I'm an anthropologist actually,
Oh,
and so ancient man. We're talking like early hominids. Us.
We're talking just 30, 40 years.
Yeah,
though.
I know, but I'm talking 10,000 or 20,000 years ago. It was between 40 and 50 years
Their
old.
lifespans were like 30
Like
to 40.
Neanderthal was 30 to 40. So I mean, it might be a little bit longer now because, and they're bigger too, way bigger. So
That's
usually larger animals have a longer lifespan.
Well, elephants are like 80 years.
Yeah. So
yeah, or some of those those large tortoises,
tortoises,
100 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to find out. Hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
eventually, we'll actually have a biological specimen to see. So, which is a question that I get a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, would you kill one? And my short answer for me is no. But do I look down on people that would? No. But for me personally, I'm curious and I'm interested. But for me, it's not so important that I would shoot one just to prove that it happened. To me, if I did have an actual sighting, it would be relatively personal, and so then I would know. Selfishly, I would know, and then I would be a knower like you, instead of a believer. But for me, I couldn't do it. But I understand from science the necessity to have something, and so maybe it's in somebody else's purview to want to, and I wouldn't vilify that person or whoever did, but ain't my thing.
Yeah. Do you know what? I always am packing a weapon when I go into the woods because you don't know. You know what's going to happen out there. I would hate to accidentally get between a bear and her cubs, sort of situation.
Right.
But when I had my sighting, I had a big cannon on the side of my hip, and it never crossed my mind. I never thought about it. Never, even. I would never kill one either.
So let's attend to the things going on in the chat right now.
Oh no.
Renee mentions that one thing that we can take into consideration is their immune systems, which are not muddied by human
carbs.
Yeah, they're not muddied by carbs.
Delicious old trapper sausage.
Yeah, there we go. So
that's a really good point. I mean, if they're, I would assume that their immune systems, being they're wild animals, they eat berries, they eat, wild things that I would think
eat clean.
Yeah, and their immune system is probably pretty adapted.
Yep.
So yeah, and something I was talking about with Jeff Meldrum. He and I spoke at a couple of conferences together, and I got to sit down and talk with him, and he seems to think that from like the Freeman film or the Patterson film, if you see the body length, they have a really long torso. Their torso is a lot longer than ours is. So that gives them more intestinal tract than we have. Mm-hmm. So they can eat rougher stuff than we can and get more nutrients out of it. So so they get more nutrients out of it. So like we would probably starve to death eating like, and they probably wouldn't, kind of deal.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point.
So, all right, we've got a couple here from Danny.
Okay, this one here says, I
think that's Will Jennings.
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 Okay. He cites previous fakes by him and that the head bobs as in humans. What is your take? I always thought it looked real.
Yeah, the Freeman film. Okay.
To me, it looks pretty real. I mean, it's certainly it's it's like any other piece of Bigfoot evidence that we have, right? It's compelling. You're going to have people that are saying it's fake because of this, and you're going to have the other side saying it's real because of this.
Because of this.
And the bottom line is everybody forms an opinion. Everybody gets behind, on their team one way or the other, and and throws rocks at each other. And,
yeah, it does.
I tend to think that I don't really have a strong opinion with the Freeman film as much as the actual Patty film, the Patterson film. To me, I believe it's real. Maybe it's because I want it to be real. I don't know. But everything that I've seen, the evidence that is put forward, especially from what I've seen on the Patterson film, I feel like that's the real thing. The Freeman, I don't know. And who will know? Unless somebody steps forward. And even then, when somebody steps forward and says, "Oh, it's a fake," and I know because of this. And that's the thing with the internet. The internet has created this amazing opportunity, right, to have, I'll use Shelley Covington Montana's term, citizen scientists. But there's a lot of citizen knuckleheads, and there's so much, it's hard to funnel through all the crap to find, really what's real out there. So it's kind of it's a double-edged sword, right? You have much more opportunity for people to share and become interested and share their evidence. But then, it's armchair quarterbacks, right? I was a part of the reenactment. We spent a week up with Bart Catino's thermal footage up in the Sierras. And I always remember it was one of the first times that I had met Bart in person, Robert Leiterman, all those folks. Bart walked right up to Robert, and I was kind of in the background, and he just walked up to him and said, "I want you to destroy my evidence." And basically I was like, wow, okay, that's a strong statement. Basically, he said, "I want you to pick apart everything. If there's something I missed, help me find it." And we spent the better part of a week up there measuring, recreating, and all of that. The sight line, we recreated where these things were based on the camera and whatnot. And what's the first thing people do? Oh, that was just those guys by the campfire. It's like, really? Yeah. Well, you weren't there. And and I'm telling you that wasn't what that was. But yet that's how, everybody in the peanut gallery has an opinion, and they have a right to it, sure. But
yeah, they do. Right. Yeah, they do. And I kind of have a special affinity for the Freeman film myself, because that's where I live here. I mean, that's where I grew up. That's where I went to high school, was in the mountains, in the Blue Mountains there. And that's where I grew up. And that's was one of the things that got me into Bigfoot. But it's kind of interesting. I actually have a copy of one of the casts that Freeman made. And it was interesting because I got it from, there's a little cafe / store in the middle of nowhere up there in the Blue Mountains. And it's called the Alpine Outpost. And it's
there you go, Ren. There's our shout out.
There's your shout out. Yeah. And there's you walk in there and there's a bunch of Bigfoot casts where they've literally drilled holes in them and put a screw in the wall and just stuck them on the wall from way back in the day. And I went in there, and the guy who recently bought it asked me to come in and see if I could tell him anything about the casts around the wall. I pulled one off the wall and looked at the back of it, and was signed by Grover Krantz. I'm like, wow. What? I'm like, what?
There are like only 3 of them in existence.
Yeah.
I'll give you $5 for it.
You sound like a festival goer.
Yeah. So to kind of answer his question from my point of view, I tend to lean that the Freeman film is probably authentic. Now, I have sat down, like I mentioned before, I've sat down and got to talk with Jeff Meldrum, who has actually spent time with Freeman, and Krantz, who actually went out there with Freeman and Krantz and collected footprints with him, and so And the cast that I have, I showed it to Jeff, and oh yeah, I mean, he just recognized it and said, yeah. And he said, there is that rumor out there that Freeman faked stuff. Jeff says no, he didn't fake stuff. He said there was the occasion when the prints weren't clear enough, he would take his fingers and make them a little more clear, but but other than that, he said he found the prints, they're pretty authentic. Yeah. So
I'm gonna have to hit you guys up for some coordinates on where I can take my fifth wheel up to the in the Blues.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Absolutely, will do. Google Jubilee Lake.
Well, it's not really
Jubilee.
Boondocking, but it is a state park.
Yeah.
And that other place that we were going to do the camp out at.
Oh,
if it would
yeah.
Ever stop
Look
snowing.
up Target Meadows.
Target Meadows, wonderful spot.
I found footprints there 4 years ago. So.
Oh wow! I know Jonathan Summerlin has told me he's has some ideas of where to go. So I thought that was interesting. We had the opportunity to we met Mike Mraz, who unfortunately passed away from COVID here last summer, but he was kind of a part of our group. And we just happened to meet him down at Louse Camp there on Bluff Creek. He had been coming to Bluff Creek since the 80s, and he had this huge album with he had handwritten letters that he had been in touch with, because when they were at Louse Camp, they said this truck pulls in, and this guy gets out, and it's Renee de Hinden. And so they met Renee, and they have all these correspondence that had gone back and forth, and it was hilarious. As you can only imagine what Renee would have been like, but I don't think he was a big Freeman fan based on what he wrote, but he was a very spirited man, but
he
I'll have
was
to try and look it up.
Yeah, him and John Green butted heads a lot too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
Renee de Hinden would have loved Facebook. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
or Twitter, better yet. Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They probably would have been canceled a long time ago.
Yeah. He'd be in Facebook jail a lot.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, I'm trying to catch up on some.
Well, hey,
okay.
I'll help you.
Okay.
Seeing that you don't want me to talk tonight.
Oh, no.
I'm getting a lot of the knee under the table. So there was a little bit of discussion in the chat about what's better for when you go out looking for Bigfoot, full moon or new moon. And so,
wow.
and there's been some, can I put my 2 cents in?
Sure.
So we like going out at full moon because we can see. Humans have horrible eyesight. We have horrible eyesight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have any way of gauging how well Bigfoot sees. However, if they have adapted to their surroundings, like I'm sure they have, I would think that they would know better than to be all out and about during a full moon. And that's why, because Danny says that their hunting is better on a new moon, which is dark, which is the dark moon. They know that people aren't going to be out during a dark moon because we can't see. Of course, we have, if you're talking about going out unaided by man-made technology. Yeah. So there's that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I go out with all the
technology.
So
I will have to tell you that Scott never knows what kind of moon it is. He's more likely to ask me, "Hey, what phase is the moon in?"
Yeah.
You woo-woo weirdo.
Yeah. So no. And I tell you what, folks out there, I have thermal cameras. I have sensitive microphones and recorders and all that stuff. And it has taken me 25 years of collecting stuff to get that, I didn't just go out and I'll buy it. But
Donna asks if they have stronger senses than seeing or can see in the dark. I would say they
do.
But I would say that their senses are adapted to their environment.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know, I don't know, Don, this speaks to that. Did you know that nearsightedness is far more prevalent now than it was 100 years ago? Because our eyes are adapting to being near screens. With the onset of television, eyesight got worse and worse and worse. And that's why, so 100, 200 years ago, the occasional nearsighted person, it was like an anomaly. So our biology is adapting to our environment. So I would think that, and we know that other creatures do that too. So, perhaps Bigfoot does see better in the dark. We don't see well in the dark because we are not nocturnal. So anyway.
That's cool.
You're totally not. That's called critical thinking.
No, I totally agree, and we need a lot of that in this.
I was gonna mention with this with the internet universe that we live in, it's a great way to make sure that your own critical thinking skills are in place, and Bigfooting is a place for critical thinking for the scientific method. We could be the only ones.
Wow, look how you brought that back around.
I know. I circled back. Cool. I should be working for the government for my ability to circle back.
Like one of the interesting, I think like one of the interesting pieces of the internet is the ability to basically get into your own echo chamber.
Yes.
Whatever it is, if it's whatever it's political or religious or whatever it is, the internet provides such an opportunity to become so niche, right? And so I'll just use the Bigfooting thing as an example. So the woo people, they don't talk to those flesh and blood people, and those flesh and blood people, they don't talk to those crazy woo people. Or
sometimes we marry each other. It does happen.
But it's better to be around people that have a different opinion and listen to it. You may not agree, and you don't have to agree, but exactly. You can listen to it and form opinions, like you said. Be respectful, but listen and have an open mind and not agree and be respectful. But I think it's important to to get out of your echo chamber.
Yes.
But it's easy to do on the internet.
That's called having a growth mindset. Always be curious and willing and eager to explore and to, reframe your understanding when new evidence is presented. Something that we used to emphasize in education a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it's a great place to develop grit, because sometimes it's hard when you look at what you you look at the conclusions that you've come to and realize that maybe you came to a less than accurate place. It takes some grit and it takes some strength of character to say, maybe I have room to change here. Maybe I have room to expand what I understand.
Or I didn't know that. And wow, absolutely. I think that people have to have the ability to evolve with thought, ideas, that type of thing. And I think there's only one way to do that, and that's to have at least somewhat of an open mind. And if nothing else, then be respectful of other people. It's funny because I believe in Bigfoot, and we have these people that point fingers, all these woo people. These people are crazy. And I'm thinking, all my friends think I'm crazy, and I don't think that I'm all that crazy. So I always tell people, I go, listen, Bigfoot people aren't crazy. You know who's crazy? The leprechaun people. Those people are nuts.
Well, when
you're totally wrong, leprechaun.
Yeah, that's exactly. Let go of me, Lucky Charms.
I'm not real. Well, maybe I'm a little bit of. I'm not a woo person like most people think of woo people, because I think the woo stuff actually is very explainable when you have the science to explain it. And with the advent of quantum physics into the scientific world, and of course, not like quantum physics is on everybody's coffee table for reading, but honestly, everything is up for reevaluation, because quantum physics undoes anything that we ever thought we knew.
Like Ron Moorhead's book. So.
Yep. And, so who's to say that, you vibrate literally you know, my vibration is faster than the vibration of this table, and that's why this table is more solid than I am. And so, you know, you get a Bigfoot vibrating fast enough, and maybe he will go through a tree. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Who knows?
you know, who's
Yeah.
to say? Who's to say?
Ron Moorhead's a smart guy, and so
So I got my
um,
word by I got vibration in there.
Yeah.
and for the record, I haven't read
All
that
right.
book, but
Yep.
I'm interested.
Yes, Logbeard.
I haven't either, but
No, but Renee has it on her. She has it on her reading list.
actually, yeah, I was actually on a. We did a virtual Bigfoot conference a couple of years ago because of you know what, but something I can't. The word I can't say on YouTube, or they won't
Demonetize us.
demonetize. But anyway, but I was on a panel with Ron, and he got into that, and so I got to listen to him talk, you know, personally about it, you know, and I have run into more than one of these of the people who've been doing Bigfoot longer than I have, and they tend to start leaning more woo. I've seen, so there may be something to it. So
What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing
it's
over
just
and
like
over again?
as we learn, we change. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
yeah, exactly.
So we are down to 2.5 minutes, which means
What?
only one thing. We only got to sell them one thing.
Okay.
So we are going to have to start wrapping things up. Any last things? Any
Yeah.
last things? And I just want to say, Lockbeard, I'm not necessarily talking about modern quantum physics. I'm talking going all the way back to Einstein and his, you know, he started moving past Newtonian physics,
Yeah.
which has its limitations.
Mhm.
So anyway, and I am not a quantum physicist. I am a sociologist and a musician, and so you know I am not
Yeah.
an expert. in
Yeah,
that.
me either. I'm a Native American cultural anthropologist. That's what I did. So
But I just think it's all. But I think it's fascinating. The universe is a strange and a mysterious and a fascinating place, and the more we can explore it, the better off we're going to be.
yeah, and
Or we can keep picking at
and
each other.
yeah, and to talk about like Native Americans, about half the tribe there would be what we categorize as woo people, you know.
Or what we interpret as
And
that.
what we interpret as that, and then the other half of the tribes in the nation are more the flesh and blood people. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're not the only ones with two camps.
All right. So we are now down to 58 seconds. So it's
Okay.
time for us to say goodbye. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being with us.
We'll have to have you back on, Kip.
Yeah. Well,
Sounds great. I
do
had a
this
lot of
again.
fun. It's
And,
anytime I can just talk
what do
about
we say
Bigfoot
here?
stuff. It's
Oh, first I need to say like and subscribe and all that stuff.
Yeah, like and subscribe
Um,
because we. Yeah.
Thank you. Cool. Well, in fact, we might have you. Do you know Greg
Greg Roberts. Yes.
from Medford?
I do.
Hello. Did you get cut off?
I
Do
can
you know
hear
Greg
you guys.
Roberts? Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
We might have you and him on together. That'd be fun.
That would be fun.
Oh
That'd
yeah.
be fun. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Greg.
Awesome.
Okay,
Greg
all
is
right.
All right. So, as always, thank you so much for being with us this week, for following us. We actually,
there's lag. I think we're getting lag.
we're getting lots of lag, so we're going to have to shut down. But thank you for being with us and for all your support. We actually love the spirited conversation because in Squatch America, there is room for differing opinions and interpretations and understandings. So just remember that our job is to click on the button.
I did. It's not working. Uh-oh.
Again.
We're shut down again.
Our job is to investigate the unexplained.
Not to explain the uninvestigated.
So we will see you guys next week. Until then, you keep watching and
we'll keep squatching.
bye.
Bye.